Okay. Yeah, again, it tried to give me that whiteboard thing. Okay. All right. So here is Naruto the monkey. And you may recall that Naruto is famous because a photographer, he was around a photographer and he grabbed the photographer's camera and started shooting selfies of himself. And this led to a big copyright issue. And every time, somebody talks about copyrights in generative AI, I invariably think of Naruto the monkey. And oh, by the way, so this is sort of a cautionary tale for human models. I've shot a lot of models in the studio. I've shot Vogue models, Chanel models, Maxim models in the studio. And I always like to look at a model's social media feeds before I shoot them in the studio. And the reason why is it saves me a lot of time. I can see what they look like from different angles and so forth. So it gives me a feel for how I want to shoot them before the shoot. And a lot of models, well, all models really, they all like selfies. They all like to take selfies. And Naruto is sort of a cautionary example of how to shoot selfies and how to not shoot selfies. Now, I don't know if you perceive this, but Naruto is shooting himself too close to the camera. And although one of my favorite ones is this one down here, really highlights his eyes.
Yep.
And but he's way too close to the camera. And this is what these models do, is they tend to shoot themselves way too close to the camera. And so you really need a selfie stick if you're going to do this kind of thing, or set your camera up, your iPhone or whatever, up on a tripod, and then get away from it. I'll tell you a secret: never shoot a human face closer than 7 or 8 feet. And the reason why is if you're too close, like Naruto is here, although it's just adorable when he does it, your nose is significantly closer to the camera than your ears. And what that does is, because of perspective distortion, it gives you a huge nose. And models, they may have a large enough nose to begin with. And so when they shoot themselves as a selfie with their cell phone, their nose suddenly becomes huge. And they just don't realize it. I think when it's a selfie, you don't realize it, but it's not a flattering thing. And so, anyways, take this advice from, Naruto's photos.
Naruto.
Don't do a Naruto. So anyways, they tried to copyright these selfies from Naruto, and they could not do it. And it's because under US law, to get a copyright, the work has to be created by a human. And so Naruto was out of luck in that regard. And I always think of this when they talk about copyrights and generative AI. So likewise, you can't get a copyright of generative AI work because it was not created by a human. It was created by artificial intelligence. However, there is hope. And the Copyright Office, US Copyright Office, is just a few weeks ago, just issued new guidance regarding how to evaluate work created by generative AI. And so this is fascinating. I'm not going to go through all of this. It's very long. But here's the upshot. You can get a copyright on stuff that's initially created by generative AI if you do certain things. And there is just a wonderful video on this by this guy. You can see, you should be able to see the URL in the address bar here. So I'll leave it at this, or you can go onto YouTube and search for this title. And I really like this YouTube video. He spoke with his lawyer about this. And it was with any of this stuff, with any of this generative AI stuff, if you're going to use it, you better talk to a lawyer, a copyright lawyer specifically. And I've talked to lawyers about this, and they'll say the same thing. Talk to a copyright lawyer. I've talked to lawyers that advise startups. If you're going to use, if you're going to generate code with generative AI, with ChatGPT, if you're going to use that in your startup, talk to a lawyer first, because this becomes very important. So anyways, this is a great video, and it tells you how you can use generative AI and not create a mess for yourself, and how you can get a copyright on that work. And so what it all boils down to is you have to make significant modifications to the work. And in fact, Dominique doesn't know about this, but I was thinking about generating a little talk, and I went into generative AI and I created a sort of an image for the talk using generative AI, and because the talk was going to be about generative AI, and I went through and I used the generative AI as a starting point. But what I really wanted to do was fill that in with more stuff that I created, so that it wouldn't be dependent so much on the generative AI. So that's basically what you do. And there's a new development here that's interesting. Companies that might contract you for the artwork that you generated, they're starting to put clauses in their contracts now that they do not want generative AI in the artwork. And so a lot of people say, oh, I've got it made, I can just use generative AI to do all my work for me. No, no, no. It's starting to get to the point where you can't do that. And the reason why they do that is because now they've got this albatross around their neck. If you use generative AI in the work for them, maybe you tell them about it, maybe you don't, but now they can't get a copyright on it because generative AI was used to create it. Not only that, but there may be copyright infringement involved. They may get sued for that. So now they're trying to put in their contracts, no generative AI. You cannot create your work that you're creating for us using generative AI. So it's becoming very interesting. I told Dominique the other day, I'm very interested in the generative AI for creating imagery. Imagery is my thing. And I created an image using generative AI, and what do you know? It said Shutterstock across the image. And so, that is such a huge red flag. Yeah, scrape, scrape, scrape. And so this is all very interesting. And Adobe, this is the wave of, this is what we're going to see in the future. Adobe, I mentioned this before, Adobe and NVIDIA have gotten together. They're working with Getty Images so that you can generate generative AI images through them and do it legally. And when you do it and you're using the Getty images, Getty gets a cut. And so anyways, this is the way it's going to work out. I'm pretty sure this is the way it's going to work out. And what's that?
I said for at least right now, until all of the just to and add to what you were saying, because I read an article, I read an article based on what you were talking about, and so there's it's like the rise of Zarya or something like that is one of the big ones. That Zarya of the Dawn was it's a comic book, and the text and the images were made using AI. And so initially it got completely shut down months and months ago when they tried to submit it as copyrighting it, because they said, no, we can copyright the book as a whole because you created this thing, but we can't copyright the imagery because you didn't make the imagery. And so then the US copyright has then, has since released updates, like Jim was saying, that, okay, well, if you make modifications, then we can copyright that. And so you have to prove, if this was the original photo and this is what I did to it, then these are my edits. And they're comparing it to something like Photoshop, where you can alter something and then create some sort of new output that has human, like the intention is there, and your vision and your whatever it is there. But in this article that I wrote, they said they will continue their stance, if effectively saying, no, we can't just give you a copyright to an image that was done with AI, but it's a case-by-case basis that it's approved. But the reason why they even allowed any amount of wiggle room is because they were just inundated with thousands and thousands and thousands of works. And so they're seeing this like shift and this need of, okay, yes, clearly this is something that we're not going to be able to just say no to. So, this is one step in a different direction. But then they specify, interestingly, that eventually they are imagining that it's going to come to the Supreme Court. And I don't see that happening, in the next month or two. But, once things continue to move forward and there's pushback from every industry humanly possible, I imagine it will go to the Supreme Court, and we'll have some interesting debates at that level about, what is and isn't mine, what is and isn't my creation. Because one of the things that said was that I can arrange the inputs, like I am arranging inputs in a very specific way to the AI to get something. And that goes back to that prompt engineering.
But it won't matter.
So, right.
And in fact, people have said, I've done thousands of iterations to create this image, and it just doesn't matter to the Copyright Office. But there is a blueprint for all this that already exists in the law, and that is the copyright laws surrounding fair use. This is very, very similar to fair use. So if you take an existing artwork, for example, and you transform it in some way so that you basically can't even see the existing artwork anymore, then you have an exemption under fair use. And so what I'm seeing is the pattern is this is becoming very, very similar to fair use. And so if you can do something under fair use, then you can probably do something similar. I'm not a lawyer, you have to talk to a copyright lawyer about this, but you can probably do something similar to generative AI images and get approval through that means. So
but I mean, that's a huge win for artists, because it does mean that like you still have to be able to do things with stuff, whatever the thing is,
yes,
whatever the stuff is, you still have to be able to use the applications, you still have to be able to use the media, you still have to be able to make and then create an output. And that to me, as an artist, is really important, that you are protecting a making process as opposed to just like hitting the button and saying, here we go.
In fact, this guy in this video talks about that quite a bit. He's an artist, and I think that's a wonderful thing. Now everyone's art career doesn't go down the drain. If you're a photographer, your work doesn't go down the toilet. Plus, frankly, I've fiddled around a lot with the generative AI stuff. I saw the Vogue covers for Vogue in Singapore that they generated using generative AI. It's just not, it's not professional quality work. You would never use such a low resolution image. I realize you can upscale, but you would never use a camera that has the low resolution that these generative AI websites use right now to generate stuff. You'd never use a camera with that lower resolution. It would never be acceptable. So anyways, we always see this. We see, you get a new technology, there's huge amounts of hype. People read into that technology everything that's on their wish list. Well, it turns out the wish list is not achievable using the technology that's out there. And so the hype will calm down, and we'll recognize this stuff for what it is. It's a tool. Another thing is using Chat GPT for code. I've been to seminars on using this for coding, and for example, I saw something where the guy says, well, here's an encryption algorithm. So let's say I want to do encryption. And I tell ChatGPT I need some code to do encryption, and it gives me this code, and I have no idea how this works, but yeah, I can just paste this in. I can compile this code. It works, and isn't that wonderful? Well, no, there's a problem here, and that is there are a lot of different encryption algorithms. And let's say you're creating some kind of finance app or something like that. And you say, oh, ChatGPT, give me an encryption algorithm. Use this encryption algorithm. Well, that encryption algorithm could be crap. And so you go ahead and use this in your app, and then somebody, some population of users use this app. They've got their financial data in there, and then a hacker comes along and breaks the encryption because it was crap to start out with. And now all of a sudden, there are all these ramifications to this. There's a lot of laws where you have to tell your user base that their accounts have just been hacked. So you got to go through that. Now there's the inevitable lawsuits against you because of that. And this ChatGPT code generation is not a free lunch. If you don't know what you're doing, you can get into serious trouble. And so there's that aspect of it. There's the other aspect of it. And I've talked to startup lawyers about this. If you have a startup and you're generating code and you're using generative AI to generate that code and just copying and pasting it into your product, that can open you up to all kinds of legal consequences. There have been companies that have gone down the tubes because they've used certain types of open source software that they didn't have a license to use and so forth. Or that something may not be open source and you end up using it. You have no idea where this code came from. And you paste it into your product. And what the lawyers have told me is that you seriously need to consult with a copyright lawyer. And you, before doing this, and you need to have some sort of, cleanliness process set up so that you're not using code that's going to create problems from you. And when you go to VCs and you've been using generative AI to create your code in your product, they want to know about this. And you want to be able to tell them, well, I've done that, but I've talked to a copyright lawyer and we followed a certain process so that this will not cause us problems. And my take, and you can't take this as legal advice. You have to talk to a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. But my take is that, it may be that I'll get stuck and I don't know what APIs to call, or maybe I'm making those calls and they're not working. I'm stuck and I need some way to break that logjam. And so I can use the generative AI and have it give me some ideas on how to do things. And that will lead me on how to work my way out of this logjam that I'm in, this area where I'm stuck. But I don't have to copy and paste the code. I just have to realize how to do it. And then I can generate my own code, write my own code that get me through that sort of stuck patch. So you have to be careful with this stuff. And I think we're seeing a lot of copyright issues. There have been lawsuits where companies whose code has appeared in ChatGPT have sued, or appeared in generative AI, have sued the generative AI website and so forth over the code being used in there. So anyways, it's just sort of a cautionary tale. And if you're a model, be careful about how you generate your selfies. So eventually they did not get the copyright for the lawyers, although as charming as this selfie is. Auto GPT. This is another interesting thing that's cropped up. Jacqueline, have you run into this yet? Have you run into it, Dominique? Dominique, have you seen anything about Auto GPT yet?
No, no. Do you want to
Yeah,
explain more?
so this guy, this is a very nice YouTube video. He goes into the incredible details of how to set this up on your computer. Um, and what it does basically is it will iterate over and over again on like a ChatGPT request to sort of refine that request. And so you can do it automatically without having to sit there and type yes, 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 yes. And you can set it up so that we'll just automatically do this and run, run, and run. And but you have to set up an API key for it. So you can potentially rack up a lot of charges. So it's important that you set up limits on how much you're going to get charged for this so that you don't rack up some huge amount of charges. And it will warn you when it gets to a certain charge so you can go in and rescue the thing. So anyways, it's very interesting. I thought it was very interesting. I made
Yeah, this particular one has been it's not getting it both is and isn't getting the same level of coverage and all of the things. I think that if it would have come out closer to the beginning of the year, then more people would be talking about it. But because most people are in such overload of just yet another mother effing thing that is coming out that I have to learn, that I have to, like really figure out.
I think of it as sort of a macro for ChatGPT.
Right. But the power of Auto GPT is insane. And I think that my guess is that it's going to have some staying power. A lot of these AIs, or a lot of these new AI startups, or it's like a dime a dozen and they don't get invested in it. And my guess is that we will see more and more from this Auto GPT because it's by Stable Diffusion. Is that right? It's from the same people who made Stable Diffusion, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think it is. I'll have to look that up, but the amazing thing is that it can be used in a lot of different verticals. And one of the best examples that I saw was, or one of the best examples that I heard someone talking about was, let's look at it from the lens of an event planner. So it said, I want to schedule a trip to England, for example. So then you put in that request and then you put in a series of tasks that it needs to do. So like, I am going to schedule a trip to England and I need to be staying at a hotel and I need to be, taking a bus to wherever, Big Ben, and whatever, insert all of the things. So it does a task and then it automatically on its own creates these subtasks to be able to continue to fill it out. So it just drills down deeper and deeper and deeper. So I need to schedule a bus thing, or I need to schedule a bus event. So then what do I need to do to schedule this? So then it creates another series of tasks, and then it completes those. And then from each of those, it then creates another subset of like, okay, if I have A and then I have A 1, 2, 3, 4, B 1, 2, 3, 4, and then, so A1, then we'll have, alpha, beta, whatever, like it just continues and continues. Like you say, you can get into incredible charges, but also at the same time, it's very powerful because it is this kind of a one-stop shop for air checking and being very thorough in planning something.
It can actually call Google. So one of the
Mhm.
problems that I know somebody had, I think it was in Chat GPT 3.5, was that they were trying to do a vacation plan and it was just full of errors. And so one of the things you can do with Auto GPT is have it access Google to get information and so forth. So you might get some more up-to-date information. Although with ChatGPT 4, I don't know what the deadline for its data was. I know with 3.5, I think it was like September of 2021 or something like that. I don't know what that date is for ChatGPT 4. Do you know what it is, Jacqueline?
No, I was actually just thinking that that's such like a low-hanging fruit thing that for some reason I thought it was still 2021, but I need to double check on that because I don't know that I have seen anywhere where it's been released that any data is more current than 2021. But with the release of ChatGPT 4, you would think that they would have increased their data training, but I don't know if that is something that they did, and they were focusing more on all of the other things, like being able to take in more data text and converting text to images. I know that was their focus, so maybe they didn't update their date.
Maybe using the old training data was sort of a shortcut. I don't know. I've heard that they're working on ChatGPT 7 right now. So it's
I imagine
evolving so rapidly. And sort of connected with this, there you mentioned the subtasks. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about this. AI godfather Jeffrey Hinton warns of dangers as he quits Google. So this was very interesting. The BBC in particular had an extremely good interview with him on this, a very extensive interview. And whereas I did not happen to see that entire interview online, they're showing just small portions of it here. They do seem to cover the entire interview in the text of their article, which I thought was very good. And one of the things that he's fearful of is we just talked about the auto GPT thing, where it can define its own sub goals. He talked about AI defining its own sub goals. He's afraid of when that starts occurring, that it can start doing its own thing. When, it starts generating sub goals like, oh, I need more power, and things like that, that can lead to trouble. And I just watched a movie, I think last weekend, called something like Robot Apocalypse on cable. And it was a slightly cheesy movie, but I thought it was very good from a technology standpoint, where this AI sort of got out of the lab and started worming its way into government systems and all this stuff. And it's sort of like Skynet, sort of an unintentional Skynet thing, where it worms its way into the defense systems, whereas it wasn't created to start out in the defense systems. And so that's one of the things that he's afraid of. And one of the things he said that I thought was very telling was, he said, Google has a huge number of AI projects. In fact, I'm not going to go through the list, but they do have a page where they list all their AI projects, and it is a huge number of stuff. And he said, we've got a lot of stuff that we've, didn't release because we just sort of felt it wasn't ready for prime time. Those weren't his exact words, but that was sort of the meaning. And but now that Microsoft and ChatGPT have started coming out with this stuff, now we're under fire. Now Google is under fire from a competitive sense. So now they have to accelerate the development of these things and bringing them to market. And so I think that leads to something that's very interesting that has been sort of in the back of my mind, but there hasn't really been any press about it. And let me see if I can jump to the article on this. Oh, he's more the threat to the world may be more urgent than climate change. Anyways.
It's interesting. There's some, I wish that we could just, as some sort of collective whole, shake the collective whole that is not thinking about the dangers and or is not listening to all of these people who have been in the industry like this what is his name? Remind me his name. I just have
Hinton. Jeffrey Hinton.
Jeffrey, yeah. So he, along with a few other people that I have been sort of following over the last year, there are all of these people who are coming out just like with this one-man band, like banging on drums and like slamming the syllables and, like all of the things. Listen, like learn from the past, hear what we're saying. There are so many safety protocols that we have to be putting into place if we want to make sure that everything moves forward in a very safe way. And it's just, I don't know if it's a younger generation versus an older generation, or if people are just like, yeah, we'll get to it, or if it's that everybody is dying for timelines, and everybody's dying because of the recession, or just the combination of whatever it is. But it doesn't seem like people are heeding these warnings from people who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, who are like, we have been using this technology since basically the beginning. You're seeing these things from a perspective that you guys don't have. We really need you to listen. People are like, meh,
I think, well, one of the things that Hinton said was that there's no stopping it. He said regarding the 6-month pause that Musk and Steve Wozniak and so forth talked about in this letter, he says it's not going to happen because even if you stop it, even if you pause in one country, it's not going to pause anywhere else. And so China is just going to become the leader in this if you decide to pause it for 6 months in the US. I think there's something I'm going to talk about in just a second regarding safeguards, but one of the things I wanted to mention, something that Google Chrome does that drives me nuts, is they won't allow me to pause on the initial image of a video. It just plays it automatically, and I'm in Chrome right now. But this was a little interesting video from CNN. The godfather of AI quits Google and warns of its dangers. Why Apple co-founder isn't concerned. They're talking about Steve Wozniak. Anyways, they interview Steve Wozniak in this, and they say, have you ever met or talked with Elon Musk? And he says, no, but I've poured a lot of funding into his efforts in self-driving. He has a very disparaging thing to say about the self-driving capabilities of the Tesla cars. I'm just going to I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to even repeat it. I'll just let you watch the YouTube video about that. And towards the end, I think it's 9.5 minutes, something like that. 9.5 minutes. Steve Wozniak says something about Tesla. I don't even want to repeat it, about their self-driving capabilities. Not in favor of it. I'll just leave it at that. But anyways, something that, the EU lawmakers are thinking along these lines. What are we going to do? And they say, well, we want to know what data you've trained on. I don't think that's so important. I've seen the image databases that these generative AI things have trained on. No big deal. So basically, it's the whole internet. No big deal. But I think it would be useful to see what images they trained on for a specific generative AI result. I would be very interested in seeing that. And likewise, when you use one of like ChatGPT, I would be very interested in seeing what web pages they trained on to give you the result that they gave you. Because one of the dangers here is that people believe anything that comes out of a computer, whether it's coming from ChatGPT or anything else. They tend to believe anything that comes out of a computer. And so if you see what we need is a way of checking these results. So when ChatGPT tells you some crazy thing, I'd like to see the references. I'd like to see what web pages they came from, so that you can look at that and say, oh, this web page is just a bunch of cockamamie stuff. And so I'm not going to rely on any result from that. It gives you sort of a check. So I think that's an important thing to do. I don't know that the lawmakers are talking about that, but I think that's very important. So anyways, they're just getting an inkling of this right now. But here's the thing I really wanted to talk about. Besides, where is it here? Pentagon. Pentagon's draft AI ethics guidelines to fight bias in rogue machines. This is something that's been in the back of my mind. Let's see if I've quoted any of this. No, I haven't. But, we think, we can regulate this. There's going to be an issue that comes up that nobody's covered yet, to my knowledge. And that is, there are a number of military applications where response speed is paramount. And it can be an existential thing. If you don't respond quick enough, you're dead. And there is going to be a tremendous temptation. And I'm just warning of this. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but there's going to be a tremendous temptation to use AI systems on the battlefield. They're already using a lot of AI systems in the battlefield. AI is used everywhere. If you have antivirus software, it's using your antivirus software. It's used everywhere. There's going to be a huge temptation to use it for decision making for military applications because it can be so fast. And so there may be a situation where it takes humans a relatively long period of time to make decisions where it may take 15 minutes, for example, to make nuclear decisions and so forth, whereas an AI system will make that same decision in 15 milliseconds. And so there is a tremendous temptation to use AI in those situations, because if you're late, if you're slow, you could be dead as a result. So this is something to think about. How can we deal with this? I think it's something that's going to happen, whether you want it to happen or not. So it's just a cautionary tale. And I told Dominique that in the next few weeks, I'm going to talk about some things. She's starting to get into the Mac and to iOS and so forth. I'm going to start talking about some things regarding those systems that are important from a performance standpoint, from a security standpoint, things that can save you a lot of money. I know a lot of people feel that if I'm using the Mac, I don't need antivirus software. This is an incredible site. It's called thehackernews.com. I love this site. And it's changing very rapidly. There's a lot of things that come up. One of the things with generative AI is people are now starting to use it for hacking type stuff. And you have to be protected. People think, oh, I've got a Mac, I don't need antivirus software. Here's an example of some new Mac OS malware that steals keychain passwords and crypto wallets. And just to make you think, here's another thing, some malware delivered. It's not the same malware, but it's malware delivered through Google Ads. So even if you're careful and you think, well, I'm not surfing unsafe websites, when the stuff is distributed through ads, how are you going to protect yourself against that? And so I think you really need, if you're not using antivirus software on your Mac, you need to start thinking about using it. And it's true, there is a lot fewer attacks against the Mac generated on a monthly basis than against Windows. In fact, when Steve Jobs was still around and running Apple, he and I had an email conversation about this, which I won't go into right now. But it's true, you're less susceptible, but you should get antivirus software. And so that's the last thing I'm going to talk about. I'll have some stuff to talk about regarding the Macs that will save your bacon in the future, save you a lot of money and so forth. But that will be in coming weeks. So I'll give the floor to everyone else.
You want me to?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have so let's see here. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, we have some weird artifacts or whatever that cover up part of the left-hand side, but
Let me see if I can move it. Is that better?
no, I don't worry about it. Just keep things moving so that the lower right-hand corner and the upper left, or I'm sorry, the lower left-hand corner, upper left-hand corner of your window here is, yeah, that was it. That's it. I don't know what that is.
Weird little ad thing.
Oh, it's an ad. Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of ads.
Yeah.
So I am bringing up this article because it both is going in line with what Jim is saying, but it is also hopeful for the metaverse. So the article is called "How Energy Firms Can Leverage AI Tools Like ChatGPT and AR VR" by Jim Penigray. And so the article goes on to talk about what is actually and who is actually still working in the metaverse, because we've talked so much about how the metaverse is on a hiatus. Some people say that it's dead, but
Well, Mark Zuckerberg says he's still working on the metaverse, so I don't want to try to contradict.
No, so wait, yes, he's still doing his own thing, and whatever amount of energy he is putting into it, I'm sure it's not nearly as much as he's putting into AI, but to save face, and since he had made many big claims about the metaverse being what it is, you know, what it will one day likely be, he would not be able to just completely stop working on it. But so I think it's just really interesting that people are using AI to create workspaces in the metaverse, to do testing, safety testing, mechanics testing. And, you know, we've also talked about the like reactionary events. So, you know, like if there's a crisis, then how does someone respond to those responders? But it says that automation like AI is being used by energy firms and equipment manufacturers, and then you know, the obvious, like, because it's flexible. But so it's saying that already the people who are early adopters in the commercial sector are medical equipment manufacturers, construction equipment producers, tech and engineering firms for aerospace and automotive, mining precincts, utility, and oil and gas. And so, you know, there's no surprise in any of these areas that one, that they would be using heavy amounts of AI, and two, that they'd be early adopters, because they have to always, like, they have to just always work. There can't ever be a lull or getting behind in medical equipment. They're, you know, they always have to be cutting edge, even though they're not glamorous fields. And so going down to this, it's kind of, I want Jim to yell at me when I am reading this and, you know, share your cautionary tales, but it says engineers and designers are realizing that many projects throughout vertical industries require more than just development. And so the professionals are combining AI along with other mixed immersive or progressive technologies like mixed immersive reality, augmented and virtual reality. And they're building AI models like ChatGPT to create virtual worlds in the metaverse to run simulations, increase productivity and efficiency metrics. And then AI tools like ChatGPT and the metaverse can help create 3D environments that replicate the real world. And the data used can be harnessed for analysis, running simulations, interacting with data more efficiently. And so, you know, again, this is not the most glamorous of applications for the metaverse. Like, nobody is showing up with friends and watching a movie together, but
well, the oil industry has been using VR for eons. Right. And I mean, it's part of their work. They have to visualize what's going on underground in these oil fields and so forth. And so they've been using it for a long time. And
right.
they probably have lots of proprietary information that they might want to pour into some of these models, right, so that they can access it more easily.
Right. All of these industries also are met with regulation issues because of all of the negative things that come along with, you know, construction, that come along with oil, gas, like the environmental impacts. So they just have to constantly figure out ways to move forward. And so, you know, as people are thinking about what is and isn't the metaverse, and if you are still wanting to get into the metaverse because you want to continue to learn that technology, you want to make yourself super relevant in the future, you're not without opportunity. You just have to get into these less glamorous fields. So it's, you know, marketing and advertising will definitely still be using them for sure. But, you know, there was a lot of just small startups that were completely based around VR, AR, and not as many of those will likely get funding. But again, you know, the metaverse is not dead. None of, like, all of the VR, and definitely not the AR, but the VR industry as a whole, it's going to be in these very specific niche areas. And those areas to me are the most interesting because they're going to be combining as this is saying, like they are going to be working with AI. So you're still going to be able to get all of that metaverse and VR experience, but you're going to be using all of these new tools that are coming out to really find a fusion of what happens when all of these areas work together and there's funding. So it's let's see. This is an area that I struggled with. And again, Jim, please speak up. It says the developers writing code will benefit because ChatGPT can create the vast majority of code, while developers are then left to use their resources to debug much less code, much less of the code, and they can spend more time on innovation. Workers on the manufacturing floor will then be able to better understand the code and such and such. The tools can provide alerts that increase safety hazards when entering hazardous sections of the plant floor and a variety of other things. And then it says, it actually also mentions virtual twins, which I haven't heard people talking about virtual twins in quite a while. But again, that's obviously still going to be manufacturing side. And so it will be interesting to see what happens, because these areas of manufacturing and construction have to be using these technologies, and they are going to be pushing their employees to be relying mostly on ChatGPT to code. So then, what will we see in the future with code, with laws surrounding code use and fair use around that area, when
I think a lot of these
not going to
companies,
stop it from happening? You know what I mean? And so it will be interesting to see where things get flagged, and what is allowed versus what isn't allowed, and these industries will be the ones to really define it, because they have to use it.
I think one of the stuff that we're perceiving as dangers are due in large part to the garbage in, garbage out syndrome. So when the chat bot says it wants to do all kinds of crazy things and it loves you and all this stuff, where is that coming from? It's coming from websites. Now, when you have a business like an oil company, they have all kinds of legacy information. So they have, a whole library of memos. They've got, I've been in organizations that have gone through this. They have basically a organizational memory, and then they probably have all kinds of legacy code as well. Now, if you can train a large language model or whatever on that data, then they no longer have crazy websites as part of the data that they've trained on. They just have basically curated information. And so, you'd always like to have fantastic libraries, code libraries of everything that you've ever done, that you can access at in an instant and so forth. But companies may not have that. But if they can encode that into large models that they can then access quickly, then all of a sudden they've got what's sort of the equivalent of libraries. And so that can save them a lot of time. So I think this is going to be a huge trend that we're going to see, where companies are going to use these facilities, these AI algorithms, to train on their own internal data, and that will greatly improve their operations. And so that's a huge thing. Plus, when you're like training on your own data and your own memos and stuff, you really want to see references to the memos or whatever that they use. When they give you a result, you really want to see what memos did that result come from. You're really going to want to see that stuff. And so this is the way that everything is going to have to move. I just don't think there's any question.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see, like, these are the sectors that will define like a safer use of how things move forward, because like you say, because they hopefully or likely are training on their own data. And so we will see a more reliable use cases moving forward in 1, 2, 3 years, as they are paving the way for what happens again when the metaverse, VR, and AI move together in a in a way where they're not siphoning information or scraping information. And, you have this more cohesive unit that is utilizing all of the absolute most cutting edge technology, these cutting edge technologies. And then what is output? And, if seeing the productivity, seeing the money saved, seeing, I'm likely exponential growth in whatever the output is, then you will see more established and better ways forward for other businesses to use it. And maybe you will see companies coming up that helps you to compile your data so that you can create your own language models. And maybe we will see businesses coming up that say, we are allowing you, we are okay with you using our code, and we will sell it to you so that you can create your own language.
Exactly. I would expect that OpenAI and companies like that, if they aren't already offering it, I haven't done a deep dive on this, they're going to be offering that as a service. And likewise, I think companies will not only use it internally, but there will be some organizations that will want to train on their own curated data, and then have public facing access to those databases, like the Mayo Clinic and things like that. And so I think we're going to see, there's going to be a lot of money to be made in doing this kind of stuff. And likewise, you're going to have workers that are going to have to learn how to be able to do this within the company. So when they say, 300 million jobs will be affected by AI, what they're talking about is worldwide, and they're talking about jobs that are affected in some way, not people that are being put out of work, but people that may need to learn how to do this stuff in order to become current. I was thinking this morning and looking at articles about stuff like this. We think this is a new big thing that's going to throw everyone out of work and everything like that. But think about the internet and search engines and stuff like that. I mean, it's inconceivable how I would get anything done nowadays if I didn't have access to the internet and search engines. When I didn't have any of this stuff, I got by, I did lots of work, but we are so, as individuals, we are so much more powerful now today than we were pre-internet. And probably some of us weren't even consciously aware of not having the internet.
Yeah, I'm sure many listeners have just always had the internet. They all,
I know, Dominique, can you remember a time when there was no internet?
I think maybe before I was high school, because I remember I started using like a Yahoo email, my first Yahoo email when I was in high school. So probably before that, probably during junior high school time, we had some online course, like a school has computer and you just have to go there and send email that all day and flappy disk, right?
So it's been with you. It's been with you for almost your whole
probably around elementary school. And I remember around, and my phone was,
the flip
one, and Nokia was still one of the best one. Yeah. So
I remember teaching secretaries how to use email over the ARPANET. And so that dates me, but we are so much more powerful now as individuals. I mean, there's the internet, all the information on the internet. There's the search engines that allow you to access it quickly. Even today on Google, I love when I do a search and they come up with that list of questions and you can click on a question. I find out so much stuff through that, even though I curse Google because it ignores my keywords. So I have to go through a bunch of crappy search results that don't have any relevance to what I'm looking for.
So
but
because I have been using that to search more. Like I'll do sort of a generic search and then go down to those questions to better refine, because that search algorithm is better than if you try to think about whatever, like the perfect question. You're probably not going to get it, but that functionality in Google is really successful right now.
Yes. And so I think if you combine those features with Amazon, I realize Amazon only has 16% of the market share. It used to have 20 before, I guess, the first quarter of this year or something. 16%. I found that mind-boggling when I heard that stat, because I use it for almost everything. But you combine Amazon with the internet and the search capability on the internet. If I was to take all of that I use and put myself back to the pre-internet days, I would have been like a super being at that time. I don't think, because it's sort of gradually grown on us, we don't realize how much capability that gives us. And so now we think of, generative AI, and we think, oh, this is such a leap forward. There's a leap, but all these technologies come in waves, wave after wave after wave. And we've been through the AI wave many times before. We've been through what's now has been the metaverse wave or virtual reality wave. We've been through that many, many times before. And so each time the wave hits, there's enthusiasm, there's funding, and some of that stuff sticks and stays with us. And we continue to use it. And I can guarantee we're in an AI wave right now. Some of it will stick, a lot of it won't stick. We'll realize what's doable, what's not doable with AI, and we'll move on. And so this all occurs over and over and over again. And there's the 3D wave. I've been through the 3D wave many times. People don't know it, but back in Victorian times, 3D was like their television. All the Victorian households had these 3D cards and 3D viewers, and they would sit at home and watch 3D on these cards, big deal. So the waves come and go, they over and over and over again. And so
there's people who are like, this is the end, this is where the world stops. And then
I saw an article.
It's like, then we'll see. Well, AI is, it's probably, I won't repeat it, but it's like, oh, well, AI isn't the newest buzzword and it's something else. Like it'll be whatever comes next. God only knows.
I saw an article, I think a couple days ago that said, I was searching for something, I don't remember what, but it said, does the latest technology mean that the world will end this year? That human civilization will end this year? And I thought, oh, that's interesting. When was this article written? Oh, it was written in 2019.
I would love to pull from every year, or I bet like at least every few years, there is something that has come out that has caused someone to be like, this is the end. And just to see what that timeline looks like of all of the moments where people just like lost their crap. And this was the end, because that would really help to put things into perspective as people are continuing to, lose their brains over all of the advancements that are happening right now.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Dom, you want to take it over? Let me stop screen sharing.
Cool. Yeah, those are really good. Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, I do think that 3D or like the AI thing, yeah, definitely people when people start, when we have something new and it's all at the the end of the world, just because people are afraid of new things. For example, ChatGPT, when ChatGPT came, people think, oh, it will take over our jobs. But it seems like, today I listened to WSJ. I know Jane Well said that, hey, Dom, this is too conservative, conservative news. But anyway, it says that the economy is getting better and better. I don't know. I think it's probably too conservative. So I don't feel.
Where you live. If you live in Silicon Valley, the answer may not be yes.
Yeah, it says that the job companies create more and more job according to the data on April, and it seems like everybody seems more happier and richer or something like that. And I was like, what are you talking about?
If you live on a farm or something.
It feels like it's so different. Like are you talking about America or China? I don't know. Yeah. So
what a bubble. What a bubble.
I feel like they are probably too rich in New York, and they are distanced from the epic center in the West, right?
So let me just add something really quickly. That this is kind of mind blowing, because I always forget that we're in our own socioeconomic bubble. So we have our own very specific world. Each of us has our own very specific viewpoint of the world and our own worries, all of the things. When 2020 and the COVID situation happened, I remember that I was talking to one of my friends. We will not mention any names. We will not mention any of the things. I was talking to one of my friends, and he is like, you know, up there, up there. And he was like, oh, Jacqueline, you don't need to worry about this. We won't be affected. I'm not going to be affected by this. I'm sure I'll figure out a way to become profitable. You know, like this is just, you know, a small little blip. And you know, and like, as I continue to talk to him, he was like, yeah, no, everything's fine. Like, was not worried for a single second about anything that was happening through COVID, was minorly inconvenienced by the social distancing, but like nothing else whatsoever. So it's just really interesting what different bubbles, you know, at different socioeconomic worlds think about. And, you know, like, he wasn't wrong, but then at the same time, another friend who worked at a Trader Joe's, like, his life was completely rocked, right? I mean, and he had to have a special badge because he had to go to work, and he was just so frustrated because he's like, I'm putting my life on the line for what? To like stock bananas. Why is this? You know, it's like, it's just so crazy. So this, you know, Washington Street Journal and it's like, the economy is great. Everybody's fine. Don't worry about it. It's like, okay, well, that is probably the case, but you know, for what percentage of people? Like, I would love that head count, man.
I'm fascinated to see what you've got coming up here, Dominique.
Okay, it's pretty much what I share on the Slack. So let me share with you. It's the let me see, the haptic things, and also the eyewear that I kind of shared last time. And
You're going to talk about the 3D models as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Please do.
yeah, I probably need to kind of share the sound. Okay, so today I saw some very exciting things. For example, this one, I was about to do this. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so think this one is so cool. If you see this is image, right? And prediction and ground truth. So it seems like there are a lot of like AI types of things will coming. And I saw some people even post that text, text image and 2D image to 3D object is going to be announced pretty soon. And they have one document, this one. And I click in. I mean, I don't really know the math stuff, but it's really exciting. Pretty much, it seems like they use the point of RGB and then trying to make it 3D according to the 2D image, and they will kind of automatically generate. Those are the math. I don't really know, but it seems like there is a way to kind of like predict or learning. You kind of like doing a lot of generation. Yeah, so from RGB or from different colors point of view, and they can start generate like 3D object. And they had a lot of tests. Huh?
This is NVIDIA's magic, whatever that this NVIDIA's magic something or other.
Yeah, and I can tell you,
NVIDIA has something really similar, but it's not open to the public, and you have to submit a proposal, and very few people have access to it. But I know that other companies have been working on the similar technology, and I'm just waiting for one of them to come out that's more open to the public. Since my best plea to NVIDIA did not get a grant to be able to use their their program yet.
Yeah. So pretty much, I think you see Maya. How much is Maya? I mean, I know a lot of people use Blender, but Maya is more precise, right? If you want something,
Cinema 3D.
it's 200 something per month, right? Ooh,
Per
you
month.
see?
Yikes.
Yeah. Wow. Long time ago, it was 199. And sometimes I just like, oh, I don't have time to learn it, to use it, so I cancel it. And every time it just raise $5 to $10 per year. So it's like your rent. So now it's like a 235 because they know that people need it, right? And you couldn't buy off. They are doing subscription. So you couldn't like, oh, I pay 5,000 and I cut it off. No, now they are doing this. So I mean, I try Blender, but Blender is that everything you need to use your eye doing own measurement. And if you are very familiar with that, it's like you need to drag and, sometimes you just cannot put the exact number. And Maya is really precise, and Maya has the pipeline tools from modeling, texturing to animation. So it has more the entire pipeline. I mean, I know Blender has it and Blender is free, but I feel like it is more predictable to use Maya. So using Maya is that expensive, but if you see this, I mean, it's not pretty, right? It's like a early stage, but what if, let's say right now, ChatGPT 4, you can use wireframe, pen and pencil, draw a website, and it will show up HTML, CSS thing. And what if I just draw a dog or something, or I use Photoshop, or I use Midjourney to come up with something, and I put it inside here, or what I'm saying? It's like it.
Or even if you capture your own nerf, and then you have some of the that 3D imagery started, and then it is able to just even further refine it and like to make it very, very, very precise and clean.
Yeah. So this is amazing because, for example, if I sometimes when I do some new projects, I need to hire somebody to do all the 3D modeling and texturing and sometimes animation, just because I am not that background person. And it usually costs around $400 to $500 just to customize it. Or if you go to TurboSquid or some other website, Sketchfab, a good model, it usually costs probably 400. It's kind of the same thing. So yeah, so just look at that. I remember there's another Blender guy create donut. Like a donut tutorials. You see, if you can use a donut image, and that tutorials, it took me probably around a month just to create a donut shape and put, some stuff and customize it and putting some little decoration chocolate chips on top of it. Those took me at least probably a month to make it look like that.
But there are websites now, a fair amount of websites, I think, where you can just buy a model for very low cost, right?
Yeah. But I mean, if you want to kind of have some customized stuff, right? For example, like the demo that XReality Academy create for AR Foundation, I pay for the drinks, because those drinks that was not pretty all the stock 3D, and those are not cocktails. So it's hard to have like, oh, I need this one and versus that one. And they have like their own package, and the cost is probably around the same. So, and sometimes the final files, I know that TurboSquid provides a service, which is, for example, if the seller upload FBX and they or Blender file, they will help you to convert to objects or OBJ file, or some certain stuff. Because I think in in Unity, it probably only can receive like object and also FBX. It's not Blender friendly. So that's why every time when I purchase something and later on I find out that, oh, texture is not applied or something. And I always need to manually apply things because sometimes 3D modeler doesn't even know you are doing AR, VR, MR, right? So a lot of stuff I need to reapply. But for this, it's just very, very easy.
It's what it is. You type it and it gives you something.
Yeah,
Well,
and
and started to say that the quality isn't great, but I mean, if you think about a scene, depending on what the application is, with VR, it's probably not going to be appropriate. But if you think about, you know, something that's more 2D, but you still need something that is 3D rendered and you don't have somebody actually going up to it, you don't need a ton of great detail, you know, especially something like a donut. If it doesn't look absolutely perfect, your eye as a viewer is probably not going to catch on that it doesn't have, you know, actual sprinkles. And it, you know, I'm looking at it on my screen and those little, if I look at it quickly, I could see those as like white sprinkles and I would just move right on. So we're not even necessarily needing to wait for it to be absolutely perfect for application. Like there's a lot of people who will be able to use whatever the quality that it outputs to be able to do something that's just like good enough, you know, or for like an MVP, just like something that's good enough as a placeholder. And then if once you would get funding with the MVP, then you would be able to purchase something with better details. But I mean, the applications with this text to 3D is just unreal.
Well, you can use your iPhone, for example, if you have an existing object that you want to model.
Yeah, I think you can use LiDAR, right? iPhone.
Yeah, it does. It's totally realistic. So you have to worry about specular reflections, but other than that, it's totally realistic. So much more detailed than these models.
Yeah, but it's just very amazing that you can get 2D to 3D. For example, a long time ago, I had a friend who got a kind of a business about prop, right? Prop, like a film studio said you need a prop setting for the movie, like live show. But I mean, I told him long time ago that I think a prop, the real, because right now it seems like the entire world will become more virtual production, which is the background can be anything, and it will have post-production on the background. So doesn't really need the actual sofa or something, because you know a lot of prop house, right? And they list out their things there, and people need to kind of pick up, and then people need to take a look all the actual stuff. And it's so hard to run a prop store because a lot of stuff are old, and then it's just there, and they are so old, so dirty. People doesn't even want to kind of like document it. So he has
the Mandalorian TV series was shot entirely with computer screens in the background. It wasn't even a green screen. It was rendered computer graphics as the background.
Yeah, so I kind of suggest him to do maybe 3D prop instead of the actual prop. I don't know. It's because the physical stuff for furniture or just for film shooting, it seems like right now people use the 3D wall or a screen, background screen, and also some other post-production. They can kind of fake all the 3D stuff. Besides, you need strong people to carry all those, and sometimes it's old and dirty. Yeah, so I think those will be really helpful if somebody, for example, like I have an old sofa over there and it's just very heavy and carry the actual thing. But if I take a photo of my old sofa and then use this 3D generate and generate a model, and that sofa, well, can be appear the right for that prop, because all the prop has to be avoid lawsuit for example, like, oh, I drink Coca-Cola, right? And the prop need to have a logo, which kind of make people feel like a Coca-Cola, but the logo is totally different. Somebody need to purposely design it to be off the brand so they won't get sued or something. So yeah, I think maybe 3D, this can really help the film industry. So yeah, I mean, I believe they probably already had a lot of 3D modelers on site just to create the special effects.
It's too bad that you can't sit down on the 3D model of your couch.
Maybe you can fake
I
like
guess
green
you could
screen.
fake it. Yeah, you could put a box at that height and then, you know, have the model behind so that you would be sitting on the couch.
Well, we need some sort of force feedback mechanism that can, some sort of force feedback field.
Oh, force feedback, it will be another topic that I'm going to bring. Is it here? Yeah, okay. So since you talk about the feedback, there is a haptic system. I mean, it's always around, and they create finger touch sensations. For example, like they use like climbing games as example. So putting some, I would say it's kind of electropod, right, on your fingers, and sync to your kind of like whatever you see. So if you see the video, I watched the video, I find out it's pretty amazing. Let me share with you. So for example, when you hold the rope, you can feel the rope. When you climb, you can feel. But the thing is that the pod is on top of your finger, right? And later on, you will see the technology. But it will ignore the nerve system, and it will just directly skip the top, and it will just kind of stimulate the button of your finger, and it will skip. Yeah, this is crazy, right? How can the electropod skip the top and just do the button?
They could give you a little shock if you had something that's hot or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, strong point area, and everything is very scientifically measured according to your nerve system. So you can totally feel that you are climbing and you are getting things.
Have you tried any of those climbing?
Yes, but I don't have the haptic hands. But I try this just because it's what should I say? The viewing point and my current standing point, my brain is not aligned, so I feel sick. And also when I hold things or when I fall off from the mountain, it just makes me really dizzy. And I think the holding feeling can definitely helps me to feel that I'm in that world.
Yeah. It's just it has to be more of a novel thing than anything else, because I just don't see how games like that would actually help a climber, because you're not using any of your body's strength to be able to move through those. Or if it's just like
you know what? I think we need to have a full body stimulation and everybody just lying on the bed, or we just need to stimulate our brain, because what you see is actually reflect on your brain. So we just stimulate our brain. We don't even need those devices, and we can see all the illusion. We can feel all the illusions. It's all the brain, right? Some
Right.
people said that our body is just carry our brain. So our brain is all our reality. So
So you would just lay on the floor and twitch like a sleeping dog or something like that.
yeah, we just
You'll all be, what is that? Heroin users basically like in their own complete own reality, laying on the floor somewhere.
yeah. Maybe we don't even need our body. We just cut our head, right, and put in a jar, and just a little electro pot.
Futurama, we're just
Yeah,
all be heads in
and
jars.
we will live forever, right? And we will feel the world, and whatever we think it will happen, and it will be generate AI, and everything will satisfy us, right? As long as you don't think something too bad, right? So yeah, so
But
yeah,
doesn't
so-
seem like it's so far away, given that there's so much research now on bionic everything. Like there's bionic arms and legs that you can be controlled by the brain, so you're not even having to manually control it. Like the I saw something where the hand was actually responsive.
yeah.
It took some time. That I mean, like if you rebuild a boat, what is that? Like if you rebuild one plank or you rebuild the whole boat, like do you have the same boat type of thing? Like if everything is bionic but you still have your head, like are you that person? Do you really need a body, like you're saying? Too existential. Too crazy.
I remember long time ago that Greek philosophy think we have a little people inside our brain and control this big machine, right? Homunculus or something, I forgot the name. But yeah, but maybe, maybe we don't need this giant body. We just need to make that little people happy. Mm. Yeah, so this is something that I found interesting. I mean, haptic glove, especially because usually I would feel like you need something on this side, right? But it's this side, which is amazing. Because when you put on the front side, probably because of the sweat or something, you might not feel right. But if it is on the top and kind of stimulate and skip, it can skip. This is amazing. And just directly stimulate this part. So this is something that I find out is very amazing. And the other thing is open source eyewear is AR without walls. So remember last time we saw that Twitter thing. If you see this one that we talk about, you go to interview and you can see all the answers comes out, right? Somebody asks you questions and the ChatGPT will prompt all the answers. And this becomes an open source for the future kind of like experimental stuff. I find out it's very amazing because right now you see like all the open source, everything becomes open source. I start feeling that it's the world is like, as long as you know how to create something, you can always get interesting stuff. So you see like Bluetooth, it even kind of detach all the component and it's open for people to download and create your own. So I think I saw the price is like a 349 open source AR device. If you take a look, so you can totally buy this thing and start integrating a lot of interesting things. For example,
some
like
of you asking on Reddit and on our Discord if you could get a closer look at how Monocle works and what it can do. So this video is for you. A few of you also asked, does it weigh down your glasses? Can you run with it? And it stays put. I can show you. If I jump around, it doesn't go anywhere. I can shake my head. It doesn't weigh my glasses down or anything like that. If I lift up this side, you can see. So, yeah, let's head back to the bench and I'll give you a tour around the hardware and show you what the screen looks like as well. Catch you in a sec.
But people are gonna wonder what the heck you got on your face.
Yeah, I mean, it looks too gimmicky, but you know,
Funky. Harry put me funky.
yeah, but I believe it can look more
So
fashion.
here's monocle in the case. I'll give you a quick tour around the case.
Especially if
before we
somebody is
start.
working on the
Here's the
perfect.
charging
I think
port,
there will be people who are
USB-C
working
to
on
charge
perfecting
the
the
battery of
software
the
just as
case.
much as they'll be
You can
working
see all
on
the stuff inside
making
there,
that
the
more
battery and the
streamlined.
charge
I'm
circuitry.
sure. Smart of them to
And
make
if
it
you open
open
up the
source like that.
case,
Yeah,
we have monocle.
monocle.
Take it out of here.
So it's
That's what
Bluetooth
it
to your
looks like.
phone.
I think so.
So this big thing in the middle, that's the 70 milliamp hour battery, lithium battery. We have a camera here. There's 2 touch sensors on the top, so they can detect taps, double taps. And then down here, we have that glorious screen. So you can see what the optics looks like. The section on the back here, this is what you look through. That's where you'll see the display floating in the distance. And it essentially just projects down, reflects on this silver part here, and then comes out of this prism. On the back we have the 2 charging pads, that's what connect to the case. There's also a hole for the microphone, that is right there. You can see that. You can see the Bluetooth module through here as well. And this is how it clips on to the glasses. So this clip is fairly strong, you don't have to worry about it. It's coated with sort of like a silicone rubber. So
I'm
it doesn't
really
scratch the
interested
lenses.
in getting
They
one
can go
and
pretty
trying
wide.
to do
I've got pretty
something.
thick glasses myself.
And I feel
You
excited.
don't have to worry about
For
this
example, if
fitting
we
well.
can use
The
Python
nice
or
thing with this is you
something
can
to
sort of adjust
do
it once it's on your
something,
glasses,
that would be
up and
exciting.
down, left and right.
I think
There's
that's
So
the
we
right
have
time
6
for
lenses.
something like
I'll
this
get
to
this
come
thing powered
along
on
because
and I'll show you what
people
the
are
display
less
looks like.
people are less concerned about
So
things
here I have
looking
the monocle
perfect and
that's
more
powered up.
concerned about
You can
I
see
want
there's
to
a test
be
pattern
the most
on the
unique of
display at the
snowflakes that
moment.
possibly could exist,
So
and
let me just mount
this
it
is my
onto a little
uniqueness.
stand over here.
So I could totally see
and get a
people
better look.
embracing the
It's quite difficult
whatever,
to
like the rawness or the
take a
steampunkness
video,
of it, and
a
just
picture
walk
of
around
the
being like, yeah, this is what I'm
display.
doing in my life. What are you doing?
But hopefully we
What
can
were you gonna
see
say,
that
Jim?
quite clearly.
There's
Yeah,
something called Tiny ML.
Let's see.
tiny ML.
Tiny ML.
Like that.
I belong to one Tiny ML news
And here in the
or meetup
background I
group,
have the
and they
MicroPython web REPL.
have a lot of
So let's play
events,
around with some of the
and
display
it's sort of
functions.
amazing what
So
they're
you can
able to
start by typing
accomplish in an
import
extremely low power
display.
and small
And we have
device.
tab completion, so
They do a lot of little
makes
tricks
things
and
easier.
stuff to make
So
it
we can
work,
do
but
display dot
that may be
tab,
something
you see all the
that's
different
very
functions.
applicable to
Let's start by
this.
changing the brightness a little bit.
Yeah, let's see how crazy it is. And those, I think probably Python, right? I saw import some keywords. So probably using Python, you can kind of code your chatbot. And I think I saw Code Academy, it had a lot of Python to chatbot types of course, if you're interested. So yeah, I mean, this definitely can be done. This is very, very amazing. So yeah, I feel very exciting about this technology. Yeah, so let's see what's next. This one, and what else? I think that's about it. And some source code. Yeah, I think today I feel like, wow, you see 3D is coming. And
Is
then
the source code available for that?
I think so. I need to go to my my feed. I put things on my feed so I can reference later. It's I share through other people's feed. It's this one. So you see text to 3D is here. OpenAI just released a code for shape E. So if you go here, right? This is the paper. Yeah, this is kind of like the thing, and this is the shape E. So shape E is that if you those code is here. If you kind of open this, you can see all those usage and all the interesting. I think this is Python, right? I don't know. So yeah, those are very interesting things, and become open source. If things become open source, then I believe more and more people will jump in and have the ability to kind of create something even more. So yeah, I mean, Apple is too late to the game. This is coming up, and I don't know. I think Oculus, long time ago when Oculus came out, people feel like there's a hope for developers to create something really unique, like small company, and can have a lot of future, right? And now, I think all the AR VR stuff still being Vive, but I can see a lot of developers can be so excited about that simple, that one eye AR glass thing, just because, for example, like a lot of big companies that patent it, and they do a lot of finalized stuff. So for example, if I need to put an app, let's say Apple Store, I need to pay 30% of the fee, right? But imagine that thing. If somebody make it open source and everyone go there, probably just, less than 30%, maybe even free. Yeah, think about how powerful that is to fight with Apple.
I read an article about the state of AI at Apple. I had enough articles, so I didn't include it in my stuff. But I think part of the thing with Apple, for example, the Auto GPT software that I mentioned earlier, the guy goes through the process of installing it. It's just an ungodly complicated process just to install it and run it. And in fact, I was thinking of installing it inside a virtual machine because I didn't really want to take the risk of screwing up my system with that installation procedure. But Apple is very good at setting up things so that you don't have to go through anything like that. And I've been sort of critical of them putting the processor in the headset that still hasn't come out yet. Because it may have the headset may have come out a year or two ago if they hadn't done that. But what they're considering for something like that is the amount of lag as you move around. They don't want to have the lag of going to the phone or going to the computer and then coming back to the headset again. And so they're very good at thinking about those types of usability issues. So it slows them down in a sense from bringing things to market. And so they've been a little bit slow in bringing their AI stuff to market, but they have that sort of sensibility about it. So there are merits to the way that they're doing things, but I know it can be frustrating from time to time about how slow it takes them, how slow they are in bringing things to market.
Yeah, and remember that Apple is going to launch their mixed reality or AR glass, right? Yeah, and it has been a long time that we kept hearing about the rumor, but hopefully this time is true. But
June, I think.
June 6, 7, something like that, 5, 6, 7, something like that.
June,
right after AWE, yeah.
Yeah, well, it may be announced in conjunction with the Apple Developers Conference, the Worldwide Developers Conference.
I think it's during that time they are going to announce. It just strikes me, and they are going to sell $3,000. Woo! This is take a recession. Come on, 300. Come on.
I'm trying to fathom that. It's like with the MacBook Pros. Everyone thought they were going to come out with the MacBook Pros at the beginning of the year that were based on the new chip technology, the 3-nanometer chip technology, but they didn't. They're using
they are holding a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they're using the 5-nanometer technology just as AMD is and just as NVIDIA is. And so Apple's MacBook Pro sales were down 40% year over year in the first quarter of this year as a result.
Not a surprise.
And what's that?
It's crazy, but not a surprise. I mean,
yeah, if they had come out with a 3-nanometer versions of the computers, I'd have one right now. But now they're asking me to wait till March of next year, probably. In the meantime, likewise in June, is going to be the release of a laptop that I had mentioned earlier that's got a 3D display on it, and it's using one of the high-speed NVIDIA processors, which is just tailored to all the generative AI stuff that's going on. So I'm seriously tempted now to buy. I hate Windows, but I'm tempted to buy this Asus
Do
laptop.
it. Do it. Do it. Join the
Yeah.
Windows.
I was even thinking of, buying if you look at the high-end mobile chips from NVIDIA, GPUs from NVIDIA, versus the desktop GPUs from NVIDIA, the desktop GPUs with the same name are about 67% faster.
Wow, that's
And so and you pay a lot less if you're buying a desktop machine
build it.
versus a laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you might spend $4,000 on the desktop that's got these fast chips in it, and $5,000 on the laptop.
Yep.
oh yeah.
And but you could set up the laptop in a spare room at your house, and you could access it remotely and have it, do the models, execute the models remotely, and then see the results on your computer, on your laptop. I don't know. I'm tempted. I'm working through all these scenarios. It drives me crazy. Why didn't they just come out with the darn 3nm chips? I'm going to have to worry about this.
Yeah, I think they are just hold it so they have, at least, for example, if they hold until next year, something they've already invented, so they can plan out each presentation. Yeah, they don't need to rush. Right?
They had a big lead when they moved to 5nm. It gave them a huge lead over everyone else. The other manufacturers were terrified that Apple was going to move to the 3nm chips for this most recent generation of MacBook Pros, and they didn't. So they were greatly relieved. So
Yeah,
drives me
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I think Apple is just too slow every time, and it becomes not so innovative company, and it's just trying to, just like James previous says, that trying to earn everyone $1 for a few billion people out of few billion people to keep their revenue. Yeah, so
Yeah. I actually had an email conversation with Steve Jobs once upon a time about this very topic. And I said, Steve, these new laptops are coming out that could be very stiff competition for your upcoming MacBook Pros. And I said, you've released no information about the upcoming MacBook Pros whatsoever. Can't you just give us some information so that we'll at least postpone our orders for these Windows machines? And he wrote back to me and he said, Jim, I'm sorry, but we cannot run our business based on the timing of your laptop order.
Oh, I see. Now I understand. Probably it's probably like the one they announced is the only one that is handmade. They couldn't even do the mold for the machine to mass production. They have to ask everyone to kind of pour every little chips inside one, like manually, in order to kind of meet the time aspect to send to your home. So they probably need to even have contract with factories or something. Takes some time.
Well, the latest delay on the headset is supposedly that they don't have enough software written for it yet.
I swear to God.
And I know at the beginning of the year, they were actually hiring people. Apple actually had, job ads for people to do programming for the headset.
Of all of the things that I track in the world, I intentionally just will not read something about this Apple headset because it's just like an emotional roller coaster, or like a insane, like early 2000s soap opera. That is what it feels like to me at this point. Just like, why? And I just, Apple, if you're just going to do all of the shenanigans, then do them. But I mean, you're losing people. You're literally losing people with all of the with just I don't even know what the right word is, like all of the misplanning and like I don't know if they're worried. I'm sure they're worried that there's so little market, so maybe they're hoping that they can pull some sort of a Hail Mary and put some sort of super relevant tech in there that helps them, but each time that they delay it because they're trying to perfect something, it's just like it's just ridiculous at this point. Just really,
I just have a hard time figuring out who's going to buy this headset. And they say it's going to be for developers. Developers of what?
yeah.
I mean, I think it's probably like the developers who's start out getting funded.
I mean,
Yeah.
thankfully they are, because there's no development happening in VR. So, I mean, at least they got that right. But I don't know, this very small amount of people who will be using it for like the industries that we were talking about in that article, construction and the like first response type of training and the natural oils. Like maybe they are targeting it specifically for commercial use in military things like that, and they're not necessarily worried that the consumers are going to be messing with it at this point.
Yeah,
it's a mystery.
Yeah. I don't think consumer, this is for consumer. I would think it's more developers to create more apps tailored to the headset. And I think if XReality is big enough, we might be able to request like free headsets from Apple. Hopefully there will be anytime soon. But
If you want to give me a free headset, I'll take it.
yeah, if Apple can give, yeah, I mean, it depends on Apple. Yeah, I mean, yeah, 3,000. Wow, especially this time. Yeah, so I think Apple or some other companies, if they can make a lot of like a free headsets or some hackathons, if somebody gets something and they can get free one, right? Long time ago, I think Magic Leap, they have a hackathon, which they were like pretty rich during that time. They gave all the participants one Magic Leap headset. I was like, whoa, why I didn't join that one? Because everybody got one headset. So I was like, wow, this is pretty good. I don't know if Apple can start giving away some people, some people can start working on it or promoting or creating some apps. That would be great.
It's just going to be a very, very, very specific group of people who are sort of already in the industry. Like they're not opening doors for indie developers to be able to work on, create, whatever new small startups or content that they want to create. It seems like it's really just going to be for bigger commercial use. Which I mean, and like small indie is still commercial, but like they're kind of purchased out. I mean, and maybe not, like if you want to go throw all your dollars in on this and start something with the Apple use, but it would, the technology would have to be so innovative that you would be willing to run the risk of saying, yeah, I'm going to go all in and try to develop on this instead of something else that's cheaper. You know what I mean?
It just seems like a path to bankruptcy for small developers.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like, so probably for me, like XReality Academy, I will do the phone. I know it's not the most innovative, but at least we start somewhere, right? We start with like everybody has, and then we have something, and I will do it so detailed, make sure it's hard to fail.
Well, by the way, when you do that, and I think this is great, when you do that, please state the build of Unity that you're using, because when your students go to replicate what you're doing, they're going to need to load that build number into their Unity.
Yeah, right. And also, I think let's start with this one, and let's later on we will jump to VR because I believe VR headset, people will have VR headset more than AR headset. So AR headset is even newer. Or if you got Magic, the thing about Microsoft is that they stopped or they canceled the entire team for HoloLens 2 or something. Yeah, the newest headset, they stopped doing it, upgrading, which I find out that because I know that a lot of enterprise, they are doing the HoloLens, right, stuff. So I feel a little bit sad for the VR AR thing this year. It just, yes, everything just kind of froze. So,
But there's a lot of stuff.
Mm.
There's a lot of uses being made of AR technology in industry right now.
Yeah.
Huge amount of use.
Yeah, so I think today's news, one of the news is Meta is release the kind of like a Spark AR portal for the Reel. You know, Meta is kind of using the concept of TikTok or Snapchat. They have the Reel, right? And the advertiser can use Spark AR to create some brand, like, you know, filters, AR filters for their brand. Probably more like gamify, something very similar to Snapchat's idea a few years ago, probably back into 2019, 4 years ago. So I think Facebook is going to catch up the gamification or AR part of the brand promotion. So this part, I think this will be great because kind of like as people start doing some mobile AR stuff, I feel like the industry always go much ahead, and later on go to consumer is always, you know, 5 years later. So yeah, I mean, we can start with the mobile and later on we migrate to VR and then go back to AR once we have more people have AR glass. The thing about this types of education is that the device is too pricey and not everyone has it. And even though you can do it, not many jobs for you right now because it requires somebody with 20 years of experience development and which can do so many customizations for the early step of development. So, but it's fine. We just keep doing it. And once the time is mature, we've already have enough content. So that's what I think.
Yeah, the last thing I would say is that, like, for everybody who wants to continue to do continuing education in whatever the field that you're in and wherever you want to be in the future, that it is important to just pick anything.
Yeah, right.
And then, you know, pick another thing and learn about it, because you have no idea what the sum of all of those things that you've picked build up to, you know, to some sort of specialty in the future, because everything is so new and there's so many different avenues that, and there's so many different, it's like we're all trying to lay a foundation, and we need people who have picked up the AR glasses as well as, you know, having 3D modeling experience and, you know, whatever else, some branding experience. And we need people who are past photographers who decide that they want to use the monocle for a little bit and, you know, then get into AI and prompt engineering. Like all of these things will add up to something larger, that even though you can't pick everything, you can pick like one thing, you know, one thing every 3 or 4 months, or one thing every 6 months, or one thing every year is better than just being like, it's so much.
Yeah,
I
right.
can't, you know, I'm over it and I'm not going to do anything, because simply because they can't see, you know, how it's going to be used in the future, or they can't know for certain that that's the right thing to invest their time in. Like nobody knows that answer. And so, you know, just pick something that you're interested in and then move forward, you know?
Yeah, I do think that AI is definitely something, even though you don't know coding, Python or machine learning or something, but I think at least using some AI plugins to help accelerate the production pipeline, that might really help. And also, I think XR definitely in the future, it will be the future of the internet or the future of the communication virtually. So this one definitely we can kind of jump in and learn it. And experience design for this, I would say, I still said that experience was under software, and software is under hardware. If hardware, we don't even know what's the hardware, how can we even do software and experience? So, but we have something that we have that chunky, big helmet, right? Helmet-like device. But later on, probably it will be today when we see that little thing slip on your glass and you can start seeing the world. I think that is more affordable. 300 something, right? Imagine if Apple can do like 2 clips and, you know, one is $200 and 4 is like a $400. And it will have a lot of stuff that developer create. I find out that is more pumping my heart than trying 5 years and create something $3,000. And when you buy it, you couldn't do anything with it. Yeah, so yeah.
Well, the only problem I see with the monocle thing is you look like a goofball when you're wearing it. And
Embrace it.
who knows,
Embrace
maybe
it.
somebody would call the cops on you or something.
It
Yeah,
looks
you
like
have
the
little piece of paper that specifies this is, you know, this is what it is. Please read it. I'm not recording you, or, you know, whatever. Make your life easy.
yeah. When I wear Ray-Ban, you know, the smart glass with Facebook, nobody noticed me because it looks just like a really normal, a little fancy glass. It's very normal, and only there's a red dot here, but it's just so small that nobody can notice it. And there's a super small button. So yeah, I mean, the technology is keep growing, and just like Jacqueline said, that we just pick that small things and just hold on your ground. Everyone's path is different. And yeah, for me, I saw a lot of YouTube, right? I saw a lot of like, wow, people already go so far. But I told myself it's fine. Right now, we start with like a beginner, and which is great because I can do so much details for all the tutorials, and all the tutorials will be up to date. Yeah, and later on we can migrate to VR, and later on go back to AR glass. So hopefully within kind of like 6 months, we can kind of cover the entire whole process. And now, yeah, I mean, next week, next Friday, it will be kind of introduction, but the following one, we will start kind of like having kind of live event, which I will do the recording, pre-record. Why? Because I find out that every time when I do some demos, because my Zoom is not, you know, full entire screen, sometimes I will miss sharing something. Or sometimes there are a lot of things that's not being shared or being documented. So I think pre-recorded can ensure the high quality of making sure that I'm not too nervous and forget a lot of things and wasting people's too much time. Yeah, so it helps. So yeah, so but at the end I will show up to answer questions. So I think this really helps. And we just slowly, I don't want to say slowly, we are still fast. Kind of start from building the foundation, and later on we will migrate to VR, and later on AR glass once it's cheaper. Yeah, so I think this plan is pretty good, and just stay in that private Slack, and hopefully this group can help, you know, people to get something. Yeah, not wasting people's time, but learning XR every week, just like what we are doing, right? I find out this Saturday meeting really helps me to kind of make me read one or a few articles and still you guys sharing, and I learn much more. Yeah, so I think this group should be, you know, we just keep that doing it, and hopefully we can have more people join us so we can grow it. Before it was just me talking to myself, and you see Jim join, and later on Jacqueline join, and hopefully we can have more people so we can see more news, different news. Cool, awesome, thank you so much, and I will see you next time. And next time there's another speakers event, and it will be Mozilla Hub from Matt Cool He is actually currently in Taiwan right now, but he will show up. And also he worked for Mozilla Hub. So he will talk a lot about WebXR and also like Mozilla Hub. And I think he is working under education program. And he also had experience working in Udemy as a teacher. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. And Matt Cool is also one of our mentors. I think he said that right now he's too busy. Probably, after a few months, we kind of can. When he is less busy, he will kind of see how he can do all those interesting education stuff. But I'm happy to kind of having him, and let's see what types of stuff we will learn on Saturday. Cool.
All right.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.
You too. Bye bye.